It's New Year's Day, and you guys voted to have me do a best of 2022 video, so here it is. We're going to cover my top 5 mostly lesser known indie PC games and TV shows that were exceptional in some way or another and released over the past year. So let's kick things off with a best of list of games released this past year that doesn't include Elden Ring. This list consists of games entirely available on Steam, and the QR codes you see on screen will link you to the game's Steam page. Coming in at number 5, we're going to go with Scorn for Best H.R. Geiger Walking Simulator. Scorn is one of the more interesting games to come out of 2022. Having been in development for years, it finally released over the autumn to a fairly positive reception. The main takeaway here is the world design. The level of detail is really unparalleled to anything else, riffing on the art style of H.R. Geiger with great reverence. While there's not much depth in terms of gameplay, it at least makes for a unique experience, as it's a memorable alien world that you won't soon forget. Personally, I thought the gunplay was really good, aside from the penetrator melee weapon, but it was just so sparsely used that it was a little disappointing. For instance, you get a great shotgun-style weapon towards the end of the game, but you only use it like 3 times. Currently 30% off on Steam, the game is definitely worth checking out if you're looking for something completely different with only environmental storytelling to offer. At number 4, we've got High on Life for Best Comedic Palate Cleanser. High on Life certainly isn't for everyone, as
comedy is subjective, Murray.
Though if you're a fan of absurdist comedies like Rick and Morty, Solar Opposites, Curb Your Enthusiasm, I Think You Should Leave, and whatever you'd call Joel Haver, then you'll absolutely have a blast with this game. I found it to be a great palate cleanser after playing more serious games, as aside from the persistent humor, the game is fairly easy with above average combat. Each weapon is imaginative and useful for specific scenarios. The visual aesthetic is bright and colorful, and the story, where aliens take over the Earth because consuming humans gets them high, is something that really sets it apart from anything else I played this year. Definitely pick this one up on sale if you're a fan of this style of comedy, as my only critique with the game is it's too expensive given the 8 or so hours of gameplay, so keep an eye out for it on future Steam sales. Coming in at number 3, we've got Moonscars for Best Indie Combat Loop. Moonscars is a pretty great Blasphemous clone that came out a few months back, and while it'll only take you around 5 or 6 hours to get through, it's some of the most well-designed combat of the year. There's a real weight to each strike, combined with excellent sound design and a clever tweak on the Blasphemous Spike Nightmare. You won't die to them instantly like in that game, but you can even use them offensively, impaling your enemies with a satisfying thud. Currently 20% off for the Winter Steam sale. This one is absolutely worth picking up if you haven't done so already. Coming in at number 2, we've got Cultic for Best Game Made by One Developer. As someone who grew up during the era of Wolfenstein, Doom, and Duke Nukem, Cultic absolutely blew me away. Out of all the boomer shooters to come out recently, Cultic is a cut above. What's even more impressive is that the game is made by one person, Jason Smith, who did everything from the programming to the animations to the music. It's truly a work of art that's more polished than any AAA release in recent memory. Cultic pays homage to not only its obvious boomer shooter inspiration, but also from titles like Return to Castle Wolfenstein and the Evil Dead franchise. For $10, this is really a must-have, and I can't recommend it enough. Finally, at number 1, we've got Sniper Elite 5 for Best Multiplayer for Introverts. Out of all the games I've played this year, the most overall fun and enjoyment had to be with Sniper Elite 5. While previous Sniper Elite games have always been a good time to get through, they were never really that big on replayability and didn't offer much beyond a one-time playthrough. However, Sniper Elite 5 is a completely different animal than its predecessors in several key ways. Many of the maps are designed to actually snipe enemies from a significant distance. The game is heavily inspired by Hitman now, with the ability to accident kill your primary targets each mission, and provides tools like wire cutters and crowbars to sabotage enemy weaponry and communication devices. The multiplayer has 2 specific modes which are great fun. The Dark Souls-inspired Axis Invasion, where you hunt down players going through their campaign by deducing their location based on current objectives completed, and the co-op mode meant to help new players get through their campaigns and fend off invaders. As someone who never had much of an interest in multiplayer games, Sniper Elite 5 is perfect for introverts. The missions are large enough with plenty of memorization that, when mastered, will either significantly help or hinder other players depending upon which PvP mode you're in the mood for. I hope the next iteration of Sniper Elite 5 continues to draw inspiration from Hitman, as having a few more ways to take out targets via accidents would be ideal, but the replayability factor for this one is already off the charts. I just think it's incredibly clever that Rebellion were able to take a concept from Dark Souls and make it work so well for a third-person shooter. Currently 40% off for the winter Steam sale, this one is a no-brainer. Pick this one up and drive your friends to rage quit. It's a blast. Changing gears now to television, there were a ton of great new shows which debuted this year. My top 5 are: number 5, Sandmand, for the most surreal and thought-provoking. Sandman was really the best show Netflix put out this year. It had great visual appeal, and thanks to Neil Gaiman, had writing and dialogue at a level beyond what you would normally expect from a Netflix show. Personally, I really liked the occult overtones and how the personification of different aspects of life made it an intriguing concept. While I've never read the comics, from what I can tell, this was a pretty faithful adaptation. As far as Netflix shows go, this was one of the better ones. At number 4, we've got Three Pines for Best Detective Noir. This is a recent show out on Amazon featuring Alfred Molina as a homicide detective from Quebec. The best way I can describe this show is French-Canadian Twin Peaks minus the spiritualism. It features a town of very distinct characters where strange murders continue to occur, and it's up to Inspector Gamache to connect the dots. Overall, I found the show to be really good, as not only does Molina provide a captivating performance, but the way the show is broken down into 2-episode story arcs is refreshing. While there are some threads that persist through all 8 episodes, I thought the use of more compartmentalized storytelling was a good approach. Check this one out if you're looking for a good character drama. Coming in at number 3, we've got The Devil's Hour for Best Implementation of a Nietzschean Thought Experiment. The Devil's Hour is another lesser-known show from Amazon this year, conveyed in a fairly competent mystery box style. It manages to take a Nietzschean thought experiment, one which I won't name here for risk of spoilers, though you'll be familiar with it if you've watched True Detective Season 1 or Loki, and do something completely unique with it. While the show is a slow burn, the final episode is just so damn good and reveals the mystery in a very clever and satisfying way. Apparently there will be 2 future seasons of this show, so be sure to give this one a shot and get acquainted with its unique take on the nature of time. At number 2, we've got Little Demon for Most Controversial New Series. Little Demon is a Hulu show that impressed the hell out of me this year. Featuring Danny DeVito as Satan, he learns the location of his missing daughter, the Antichrist, when she uses her powers for the first time. Satan's goal is to then convince his daughter to combine forces with him in order to initiate Maximus Daunus and take over the universe. Naturally, this concept didn't really track well with religious fundamentalists.
Warnings are emerging as Disney-owned network FXX releases a new animated series called Little Demons.
Little Demon.
FXX, a network owned by Disney.
Disney is not a friend of the Christian family.
What was your reaction when you saw what this show was?
Little Demon.
You can't make these things up, guys. Please be careful of the things that you are watching.
The whole series makes a mockery of Christianity.
They are trying to desensitize us and our kids to the demonic. It's that simple.
Because the head of these corporations worship the devil.
The series has nudity in it. I believe that Disney knows exactly what they're doing.
Worship Satan.
And it's disgusting.
The Bible tells us to put on the full armor of God.
Little Demon.
What a bunch of bozos. Their outrage is absolutely hilarious, but the real kicker here is that the show is actually good. It's competently written and features copious amounts of both humor and gore. If you're a fan of either Rick and Morty or Always Sunny, you'll love Little Demon. Definitely give it a watch, as the showrunners really need people to check it out given the controversy, and I really want to see what happens when certain demographics learn there's going to be a season 2. Finally, at number 1, we've got Andor for Best Mainstream Series. I'm really at the point where fatigue has set in and my patience for all things Disney is at an all-time low. I had no interest to even give Andor a shot until some of you recommended it to me, and I'm glad you did. Andor is what happens when you take all the camp out of Star Wars. No goofy droids, no Jedi, no Sith, no nostalgia bait of any kind. The show is simply good based on its own merits. It's honestly a fluke coming from Disney, but character development, cinematography, sound design, really every detail just works so cohesively for the show that it's hard to believe it's Star Wars. Similar to the aforementioned Three Pines, the storytelling in Andor manages its storylines in 2 or 3 episode arcs, and is so much better for it as the pacing continues to build right up until the season finale. It's just far and away the most competent series Disney has done so far for Star Wars in general, so check it out even if you've reached your limit. That about wraps up my best of 2022, so let me know what you thought of these recommendations down in the comments. As the year has come to a close, I hope you all had a hedonistic New Year's. Now, see you in the next one.
Take it easy.